Over the past week, I've helped 3 different home buyers from different parts of the UK. These houses all look interesting, but can my clients actually make the changes necessary to turn a house into a home? The properties are in the right location, but they each need to be changed to suit the buyer's lifestyle. People book my online consultations to find out what the work will cost, will they get planning approval, and if there are better ways to change the house that they haven't thought of. Let me show you what I mean. This house is for sale with planning permission for a huge extension. My client was considering buying the house, but they didn't need to enlarge it that much, and their budget wouldn't stretch that far anyway. Instead, they wanted to talk about 2 possible options. Could they get planning permission to build a house in the rear garden, and could they extend above the garage to give the house more curb appeal? I checked the local planning portal and found 2 neighbours had been refused planning to create housing in the area. They were refused on the basis of overdevelopment, which isn't a good sign. I also advised my client that if they are buying the house with a mortgage, their lender would have to approve them subdividing the title deed. I told them to take advice from a mortgage broker now because subdividing the property in the future would affect the loan to value. The idea of creating 2 new rooms above the garage is probably feasible, but there are issues. First off, the existing foundations may not be able to support the additional load. I advise my client to have this inspected by a structural engineer before buying the house. Now, this is invasive and would require the permission of the current owners. If they don't inspect the foundations and it turns out they aren't strong enough, it costs a lot of money to underpin or reinforce the existing structure. I told the client that doing this would only solve half the curb appeal issue, because even with the extension above, the original garage is still below. They could solve the problem of curb appeal, get 2 more bedrooms, and spend less money if they converted the existing garage and made that the main entrance to the house, leading straight into a new kitchen living dining space. Then these 2 rooms could each be converted into bedrooms. Having a large bedroom with an ensuite on the ground floor really helps future-proof the layout for older people, and converting the existing garage would be affordable within the client's budget, while extending over the garage was cutting it fine. Let me know if you agree with my advice. This house is on a good-sized plot of land and right next to a large park with mature trees, which is why my client was considering buying it. However, my client felt the house didn't take advantage of the view and wanted to extend above the garage to create rooms at a higher level that could look out across the park. The client knew the house wasn't listed or in a conservation area, and they felt getting planning permission would be achievable. Now, before we even got into issues of building above an existing structure and all the issues around relying on the original foundations, I checked the local planning portal. It turns out a previous owner had tried to get planning for exactly the same thing and had to withdraw that application. Now, withdrawing an application does not mean it was refused. I've done it myself a few times when the planning officer called me to say they would refuse the application unless I made a lot of changes to the design. Given that planning applications are on a statutory deadline, it's often easier to withdraw and then spend quality time rethinking the design before reapplying when ready. Only in this case, the previous owners never reapplied. Instead, they tried and failed to get planning for more houses on the site. My client was completely unaware and was very thankful for my insight. I told them they probably could get approval for a 1-story extension to the rear, depending on the design. They should also consider converting the garage and rethinking the internal layout. Their construction budget would cover either option. The only downside is the unusual and very strong design of the entrance door. I'm not convinced this is the best place for the entrance, but moving it might be a design challenge, because this just looks like where you're supposed to go to get into the house. Let me know your thoughts. This house on a corner plot was in the perfect location, but my client didn't want to buy it unless they could get 2 more bedrooms. They wanted my advice about the possibility of creating a 2-story extension to the side and the rear to achieve this. They would put 2 bedrooms upstairs and have a larger living area downstairs. I told them this was not the way to do it. A 2-story extension could pose issues of overlooking and overshadowing neighbours and might be refused planning permission as a result. It would probably also cost more than their budget, especially since the house needed significant upgrades inside. I suggested they demolish the garage and build a 1-story extension down this side, integrate it with the existing extension on the rear, and combine it with this utility room and half of this room. The front half of this and the existing kitchen could then be converted to bedrooms. The new extension could become the main entrance to the house. The original front door would need to stay to comply with building regulations, but just change the landscaping on the driveway to lead people to the new door instead. That would create a house layout that flows well, with a clear split between public and private space. Given that house extension costs start at around £3,500 plus VAT per square metre, this one would cost at least £150,000 plus VAT. Added to that the cost of internal alterations and renovation, so probably £250,000 plus VAT all in, which was affordable for my client. During our consultation, I noticed photos showing efflorescence above the front door and kitchen flat roof. This is usually harmless. It happens when bricks get wet and then dry out. The moisture takes salt to the surface of the brick where crystals can form. It can usually be cleaned up with a wire brush. The question was why efflorescence was only happening above the flat roof. I suspect it could be because the roof was holding water against the brick, saturating it locally. If the roof timbers were also saturated as a result, they might have developed wet rot, and I advised my client to have an invasive survey carried out before they bought the house. They should also have a surveyor check the interior floor timbers and the roof to make sure rot is not spread there also. If so, the remedial work would cost so much it would make the project unaffordable, and they should not buy the house. Let me know if you agree with my advice. My name is Neil, and if you would like my advice about your project, no matter where it is in the UK, check out the reallifearchitecture.co.uk website. You can book a consultation with me and get specific advice about your property. There's a link in the description, and please read the terms and conditions before you book. If you found this video useful, check out this playlist and be sure to drop a like. It really helps the channel.